This is Eye on Africa, France 24's program focused on the continent. I'm Charlie James, in tonight for Georgia Calvin-Smith, and here's what's ahead. Thousands of Sudanese protest across the country, a show of anger over the military deal that reinstated the prime minister. Pro-democracy activists vowing to keep up the pressure. Gambia's president wins re-election, but the opposition is crying foul. One competitor has since accepted the result, but two others are refusing to. And protesters take to South African beaches in opposition of an oil and gas exploration project from energy giant Shell. They say the project endangers marine animals and tourism. Thanks so much for being with us tonight. Thousands of protesters faced off with police in Sudan on Monday. Demonstrators marched through Khartoum before gathering near the presidential palace. That's where police used tear gas on the group. This is just the latest protest against last month's government deal that reinstated the prime minister but gave the military majority control. Laurent Berstecker with the latest.
Marching on Khartoum's presidential palace, thousands of protesters took to the streets of Sudan's capital on Monday. It was the latest rally to denounce an October military coup and a controversial agreement between the army and the country's prime minister.
واليوم أيضا بنأكد رفضنا الكامل للاتفاق السياسي اللي تم بين المكون العسكري والدكتور عبد الله حمدوك.
أنا رأيي إنه الحمدوك أخلى بالوثيقة الدستورية وعمل انقلاب.
Transitional Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok was arrested on October 25th in a military coup led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. The move triggered widespread street protests, which were suppressed in a bloody crackdown that left 45 people dead. It also drew a series of international sanctions, including by the US, the World Bank, and the African Union. Faced with the backlash, Sudan's military cut a deal with Hamdok and reinstated him in November. But this failed to placate critics who now accuse the prime minister of betraying his mandate. In a bid to appease tensions, al-Burhan recently reaffirmed the army's intentions to exit politics after elections scheduled for 2023.
التوافق السياسي مطروح الآن في الساحة وعندما يتم وضعه بصورة نهائية سيطرح على القوى السياسية. تشكيل الحكومة المدنية هو بالتأكيد سيعيد الأمور إلى نصابها.
Since the ousting of former dictator Omar al-Bashir in 2019, Sudan has struggled on its path to democracy. On top of the political turmoil, the country is facing a deepening economic crisis, with the UN recently warning a third of its population will be in need of humanitarian aid by next year.
Ethiopia's government announced Monday it has recaptured two strategic towns from rebel fighters. Dessie and Kombolcha are both in the Amhara region on a key highway to Addis Ababa. Their reported takeover by the Tigrayan forces in October increased concerns rebels would march on the capital. This is the latest in a series of victories claimed by government forces, though it is hard to confirm these reports because communications in the region are down. Gambia's presidential incumbent, Adama Barrow, has comfortably won a second term. Barrow captured 53% of the vote in Saturday's election. But before full results were announced late on Sunday, three of his rivals had rejected his win. And Gambian police fired tear gas on Monday to disperse supporters of one losing candidate in the capital. Leo McGuinn with a closer look at the vote and Barrow's political agenda.
Victory. Supporters of Adama Barrow converge in central Banjul to celebrate the beginning of a second term. A comfortable margin in the end, Barrow was re-elected over challenger Usainu Dabo with over 50% of the vote. Supporters expressed their joy at the results.
I'm feeling happy because my president, who I vote for, has won already. Yeah, that's why I'm so happy. Everyone in the Gambia, they are all out for jubilating the president. We are all happy.
The president joined his fans just before midnight to call for unity in the West African nation.
I call on all Gambians, irrespective of our political divide, to put aside our political and other differences and come together as one people to work towards the development of our country.
Not everyone is celebrating, however, with Darboe and other candidates saying they would not accept the results. They cited a lengthy delay in announcing the results as their reason for suspicion.
We reject the results announced thus far by the IEC. We reserve the right to embark on any course of action the situation requires.
This was the first election in nearly 30 years that did not involve former dictator Yahya Jammeh. His shadow still looms large over the country, and he retains significant political support. Jammeh's 22-year rule was marked by accusations of arbitrary arrests, torture, rape and executions. A truth commission set up by Barrow to probe alleged abuses under Jammeh's rule has called for those responsible to be brought to justice. But it will be down to the newly re-elected president to decide whether to follow up on those recommendations.
Since the Omicron COVID variant was first reported in southern Africa, the region has faced travel restrictions from around the world. These measures have been criticized as travel apartheid by South Africa and Nigeria. On Monday, the UK government added Nigeria to its red list of countries, which requires travelers to pay for a 10-day quarantine upon arrival. France 24's Mark Perelman tells us more from the Dakar International Forum for Peace and Security.
Today in Dakar at the Peace and Security Forum, a clearly irate South African President Cyril Ramaphosa came to deliver a blistering attack on the response of rich countries to the emergence of the Omicron variant in his country. He said that his scientists had been very open about telling the world about the new danger, and the only response they got were travel bans. He explained how he called his West African peers because he was planning a trip to West Africa, and they had told him to come to continue acting as normal, while the European leaders called him to essentially slap a travel ban and hang up. And he said this was really a remnant of the colonialist attitude of the Europeans. He also called again for waiving the patents on the COVID vaccines. He said this has been really a call that European countries and other rich countries say they support, but actually do not support. And he said this was deeply hypocritical, so clearly very, very annoyed Cyril Ramaphosa today in Dakar. Others, participants talked about the security situation in the Sahel, clearly a degrading situation over there. The French Defense Ministry said France had no hidden agenda in the neighborhood, but clearly there are lots of doubts. And the head of the African Union Commission said that never before had Africa been facing such a threat from terrorism, from destabilization, but also its democratic values were attacked by a number of coups that took place in recent months.
That was France 24's Mark Perelman. Hundreds of people gathered on South African beaches Sunday to protest plans for oil and gas exploration by the energy company Shell. Environmentalists say the project off the country's beloved wild coast will threaten wildlife such as whales, dolphins, and penguins. Karis Garland reports.
Marching along the stretch of coastline they say is in danger, these protesters refuse to give up the fight. An oil and gas exploration project by energy giant Shell is set to begin in the coming days, involving seismic tests in whale breeding grounds. According to environmentalists, it's a threat to marine life in the largely untouched wild coast.
It's actually just horrendous that they're even considering this. I mean, if you look around, you look at these people, you look behind us, you look along the coast, it's unacceptable and it's not going to happen. We will stop it.
We don't want it here because our families live off this ocean. We fish crayfish and many other things here. Then we sell it to get money and feed our family.
The protests come after a court dismissed an 11th-hour legal challenge by environmental groups last week. Shell plans to emit seismic waves from boats to analyze the ocean floor, hunting for spots likely to contain hydrocarbons. Ecologists say the loud sound waves could upset animals' behavior and migration patterns, as many creatures like whales rely heavily on their sense of hearing. If resources are found, Shell says the project will contribute to South Africa's energy security, The company plans to spend 4 to 5 months exploring an area of 6,000 square kilometres.
Finally on the program, it was a night of glamour in Cairo Sunday. The close of the prestigious Cairo International Film Festival took place at the city's Opera House. The 43rd edition handed its top award, the Golden Pyramid, to Mexican director Joaquin del Paso. His coming-of-age drama, The Hole in the Fence, is set in an all-male religious camp in rural Mexico. The Best Actor award went to local actor Mohamed Mamdou for his role as a veteran truck driver in the drama Abdou Saddam. That's all for this edition of Eye on Africa, but stay right here on France 24 because there's more news coming up next.